Oh, there.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Come on up and join us.
So official.
Come and join us. Hi. Hi.
I did not hear from
I'm Mary
April.
Lee Arnold.
I'm Laura Kerman. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, we are waiting on our board chair. That's so, we thought she was coming, so
My phone's on
we will
silent.
defer for starting for a few minutes. If not, is the vice chair prepared to?
As prepared as I can be, I guess.
Okay.
Are we on?
Are on, but we are
Okay.
waiting to officially start the meeting until we're giving her just a couple of seconds to see if she will appear.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're on air now, and we have you. We have Chair Rickman. Can you unmute her? Or is she muted? She muted herself. Okay. You are muted, Chair Rick. You are muted if you can hear me. There.
Oh, I can't see anything. So just so you know, all I
Okay.
can see is black screen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you see now? Is it visible to you now?
I can see, yeah, I can see the shared screen.
Okay.
She's gonna get.
Do you have the agenda with you? Do you have that?
Nope, sure don't.
Okay. Well,
I don't have it.
Go ahead.
I don't have it printed off.
Okay.
April, do you want me to just kind of move us along?
And
Yes.
Vice Chair Oaks is speaking. Is that all right?
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order and request staff confirmation that the Kansas Open Meetings Act requirements notice has been properly provided.
Yes, it has.
Thank you. And I will ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Nelson,
Present.
Commissioner Rickman,
Here.
Commissioner Kirkhart,
Here.
Commissioner Hubbard, Commissioner Oaks,
Here.
Commissioner Kermer,
Here.
Commissioner Arnold,
Here.
Commissioner Coates,
Here.
Commissioner Martin, and our youth board, Wisby.
Okay. We all received a copy of the minutes, and and hopefully have reviewed them. Is there any discussion on that? And if not, I would like a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. And we'll move on. Right now, we're listed as no new business, and we
No
do not-
items for public
we
hearing
do not
either.
have any public hearing items. But we will move on to administrative items, and we have a presentation from engineering.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Dan Stack, City Engineer. Thank you for having us today. We just annually have kind of it's a program where we sidewalks, trails, accessible ramps around town. So Michelle thought it'd be good to maybe just give you an update on kind of what we're doing and what we plan to do. We did a little bit last year, a little what we're planning to do this year, and then you can kind of see how it goes. And then really we are most time don't have a real large agenda for putting in sidewalk ramps in town. We kind of just, as we go around doing our projects, we find them and we try to put them in. So as you'll see from this program, where it's, you guys got any that are a little more urgent, we'd love to hear it. So we'll talk about that today. Thank you, Lily. All right, just a little bit of history for next slide. A little bit of history on the policy, just kind of how. I guess I have to start with that. Many different kinds of sidewalks in the U.S., or not even in the U.S. So we start with kind of some weird sidewalks in Rome. Old time wooden sidewalks. We've got brick sidewalks. I say this is Manhattan, but you could find those in Salina as well. And then just tile sidewalks, and then of course all the concrete sidewalks you see in Salina. So a lot of them not always in the best shape, but they work and keep people off the streets. And so as far as accessibility goes, that's when we try to improve them and make sure they're traversable by all types of pedestrians. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay, in Salina, we have done an okay job, I'd say, on our arterial streets. So an arterial street is main corridors, the Crawfords, the Ohios, Magnolias, Broadways. So some of we try to have sidewalks on our main arterials. Well, most of the time they're paid for by city at large and put in with big projects that we do. And so that's has been done quite a bit over the years, but we still have quite a few gaps. So I'll show you those later. When it comes to a residential sidewalk in your neighborhood or at your house, those are put in by the developer or the home builders, and that's the city taxpayers don't necessarily put those in originally. So that's just something to know, that when you buy your house, if you have a sidewalk there or not, we're not going to make you put one in, or the sidewalk should have been there if it was going to be there, and if it's not there, then it's just not there. But most of if not all of our new subdivisions today have sidewalks going in most sides of the street, and then put in by each property owner or home builder at the time. However, if you do have a sidewalk on your property, Kansas State Statute 12-1801 right there, it puts the responsibility for that sidewalk on the property owner. So that's kind of a Kansas law, fairly typical in the U.S. Some cities are really proactive and they take over that maintenance, but it's pretty expensive and it's hard to do. So Salina is just like every other city. We have the sidewalks are kind of our property owner's responsibility. Typically, we budget $50,000 a year for sidewalk ramps and another $50,000 for new sidewalks. So that was kind of an annual program. Didn't get a lot of sidewalks built, but it got some. And ramps are about $1,200 to $1,500 a piece. So you can get 30 ramps done with $50,000. We keep making a little bit of progress every year. And then the City Commission in 2021 decided we want to do a little more sidewalk work. So we have a lot of sidewalks in town. Let's be more proactive. Let's build a few more. Let's try to repair the ones that we can. And when I say to repair the ones that we can, that's like on city facilities, arterials that the city is responsible for, not necessarily the ones in front of somebody's house that called in and said, I've got a bad sidewalk. We're trying to do the ones that the city is actually responsible for. So that's where that program is today. Next slide, please. And about that time when the commission said we'd like to do more sidewalk work, our staff went through all of our arterials and collectors. Arterials and collectors, I guess I'll show on the next map, but like I said, the main roads and then the main roads kind of in your subdivisions, kind of the bigger, more higher traffic roads. So we looked at all those. We looked at, was there a sidewalk anywhere on either side? So one side only. Was there a sidewalk on both sides? No sidewalks at all. We definitely wanted to look at where there are schools, commercial businesses, bus stops, anywhere where there's more pedestrians. And we wanted to highlight those areas, and then the next map will show those sidewalks and trails. I think the next map does, I hope. The next map, next slide please, Lily. There you go. Okay, so yeah, you'll see the blue on this is kind of where we don't have sidewalks. The yellow is where we do have sidewalks, and sometimes you'll have a yellow and a blue together where we have sidewalk just on one side or the other. It's kind of hard to read, but just that's kind of when you see arterials and collectors. It's the main roads in town, and kind of the collectors are what go into the quarter sections of town and bring cars out. So a good example of a collector is like Greeley Avenue, Neal in the southern part of town. Republic is a collector, just kind of not the main roads, but they still carry a decent amount of traffic. Next slide, please. Similar slide, is cut it in half, so it just kind of shows. You'll see, go back one more slowly there, just real fast. You'll see one of the main, Centennial is a pretty large road that doesn't have any sidewalks in it, which happens to be K-State Salina and another tech school out there that it was the old Air Force base. They didn't put any sidewalks in, so it's just the way it goes. But that's a real kind of void in our community, as well as you can see the Broadway corridor. Broadway's a pretty old road, but it's an old state highway, and state highways they just didn't put sidewalks on them. So we're behind on those roads. We hope to address those in the near future. That's part of our program on our comprehensive plan, is to try to get sidewalks on those roads. Next slide, please. This is just, like I said, yellow, blue, and then not inventoried. So most of the residential neighborhoods, we don't exactly know where all the sidewalks are. Next slide. Priority factors for sidewalks and trails, and then even ramps. ADA accessibility falls right in this as well. You know, our busier streets, how functional is the street? Is it a connecting link? Sometimes you can connect a sidewalk and it doesn't take just sidewalks were built, but they missed a couple of blocks or a couple of houses even, so we try to connect those. Worn path, you'll see quite a few areas of town where there's people walking there, there's a worn path, so that's definitely an area where, okay, sounds like we need a sidewalk there. Proximity to school, parks, bus stops, food establishments, high pedestrian generators like we talked about, safety concerns if there are some that we've heard about, cost sharing. So for example, we've partnered with the school district before on sidewalks and trails, OCCK for sure with their bus stops, put in kind of short sections of sidewalk to connect to bus stops at least. Just any kind of cost sharing. We have grant programs quite a bit around the state that funnels not large amounts, but amounts of money to, like for example, the food bank. I'll talk about that later, but they got some money for around that neighborhood, got money for a sidewalk, so we're partnering with that sidewalk program. Whether you're in an LMI census tract, so some of our more underserved part of our communities, that we try to focus on those areas as well. CDBG areas, sometimes there's funding for that, so that's the reason we stick that on there. And then park satisfaction survey results. The parks program had a master plan, and the main item of concern from the parks program, not really concern, just the thing they liked the best were the trails. And so the satisfaction with trails caused the city commission, okay, we need to spend more money on trails and improving our parks and connectivity and accessibility in our parks. So our parks have really taken quite a bit of initiative the last few years. They're putting in handicap accessible parking areas, which we really didn't have in some of our parks. So hopefully those parking areas are handicap accessible, then they have a sidewalk that leads to an accessible playground even. So that's definitely something that's happening with our park program. Next slide, please. Okay, this one I get into just handicap ramps in Salina. We have over 4,000 handicap ramps in Salina. So that's just an example. It's just a way to show you that we have an inventory of them. Yellow is good. Red doesn't have one, so that's just an example of this is just a way to show you that we try to go through an inventory of the whole city. Michelle's asked me about this before. We're down to 300 to 400 red X's in there, And, we do 30 so a year, and so we're getting there. I'll show you kind of a little, you can zoom into the next slide, shows a little bit more. Okay, so this is an example just of, for example, there's one here at Marietta and Chicago. And that's one where, okay, there's sidewalk and there's a ramps on some other corners, but for some reason there's not one there. So we know that since there's a sidewalk that drops off the curb, we know that there's a ramp that should be there. Like, for example, you'll look at this corner and there's no sidewalk at all here. So we don't put a sidewalk ramp is needed because there's no sidewalk on that area right now. So you'll notice that some of these areas just don't even have anything. They don't have red or yellow because we don't, at this point, don't have any reason to put a ramp in there to nowhere. But once we put a sidewalk in there, we would. So next slide, please. Okay, and that's that sidewalk, as you can see, that just drops off the bad curb there. So that's an area, that's kind of how we go about as a city and staff. That's when we say we have a ramp but not a accessible ramp, that's what that would be. So we would just go in and fix that and make an accessible ramp. That's at the corner of Marietta and Chicago. Or actually that's University, so I got the wrong one, but it's similar neighborhood. Go ahead, next slide, please. All right, and this area also was on that last slide. Didn't have any ramps on the south side of Walnut, any ramps anywhere in here because there's no sidewalk. So part of a grant program we received from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas helped us to do about almost 2,000 feet of sidewalk, 1,800 feet or so from Broadway here down to the food bank past the Missionary Baptist Church. The food bank is right there. Ace Hardware's down here. It's going to be the Slime of Grace as well. They're going to have a facility there over to Clark Street. And then Clark actually had some sidewalks on it, so we had a few ramps here at the corner. And then we connect to a nice sidewalk system on South Street. Bus stops over here, bus stops over here, bus stops up here. So arguably that area will be more connected than they were before, and in a place that really takes quite a bit of pedestrian traffic. There's quite a bit of activity at the food bank in that area, all really in those two areas for sure. So it'll be a nice improvement for that, and we're starting that here in a few weeks or whenever the weather gets nice. It's nice today, but it's still winter, so it may not start for another month or so. Next slide, please. This is an example of some improvements we're making for accessibility out on Centennial Road. I just want to show this as an example. We are starting to look at pedestrian refuge islands, which are helpful when you're crossing a fairly busy road or a road that's a little wider. It's nice to have if we can put one in that doesn't, impede traffic or trucks or that kind of thing. We definitely want to put them in safely. But this is an area where we're proposing a pedestrian refuge island. There's a Schwann's is a big, as everyone knows, a big community job driver and community partner in town. So we have a grant out on Centennial to improve Centennial, to widen it, but also to make it pedestrian friendly and to help them with their campus. Really, they've got a lot of pedestrian activity at their campus. So this crosses a couple of their facilities, their parking lots over to their other parking lot, and we're going to try a pedestrian refuge island. The next slide, please. Kind of what those look like. They usually have bricks, or we're going to put bricks in ours. They're not real wide, but we'll probably we have these out there now. They're going to be flashing yellow beacons, so you'll see that on the sides. We have a few of those in town, and we're starting to put those where we have either wider roads or concerned with safety for crosswalks, where we put those in just to let the motorist know that somebody can push a button. They're solar. They're not real pricey, which is nice. They're solar, and they just flash a yellow light, and once people are done crossing, you can move through them. So it doesn't really impede the vehicle even very long, whereas a big traffic signal cycles through red and yellow, and walk, don't walk takes quite a while, and which is for good reason, but most of the time you don't need all that time. So this makes them easier. People like them better, and they're fairly cheap to put in, reasonable to put in for all over town. Next slide, please. And then there's an example of one that we have currently over on Iron, right by Dollar General, B&K Prescription. As you'll notice, this is on the 3-lane section. We could have put this across to the west, but it's a really wide street, and so we decided, well, we'd really encourage people to cross here and not try to cross, the extra lanes of parking and extra travel lanes on the other side to get to the grocery store there. So we try to put them in places we want you to actually use, and you'll still see people walk across the middle of the street, but at least this gives them an option if they want to use it. Next slide, please. It's just a picture of kind of our overall city map with our bike lanes and our levee trail system. This blue line around the outside is kind of our levee, flood control levee, and we have quite a few trails along the levee. And then it connects typically down into one of our streets, our 10-foot trail on Schilling or on Ohio, Magnolia. Up here, we'll hopefully connect this to Iron here before too long. The river trail will end up in here. Next slide, please. River trail this is just a start of our river trail, hike and bike trail around the YMCA. We've done the green so far. We're working on the red. And ultimately, we'll have a trail along the whole river at some point, 7 miles worth. So the idea with that is it's accessible and you don't have to cross a lot of busy roads. You'll be able to go under Ohio in this case, so you won't have to cross the top of Ohio. If you have to cross the road, it'll be YMCA Drive is one we can't go under, but at least YMCA Drive isn't not near as bad as Ohio. So we'll try to make things safer in that regard. Next slide, please. That's it. Very good. So it's just a little bit of overview of what the city works on for our trails, sidewalks, and ramps. And we definitely have done a lot of work downtown. I didn't really highlight that. It's been a while, but we're open for questions and thoughts on any initiatives you guys have thought of.
Not so much a question, but I would just comment on the accessibility to some of the shelters out at Jerry Ivy. That has been done in the past year, and it's very noticeable.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Michelle talked about with our group, engineering group, to maybe do this annually or maybe semi-annually, just kind of depends. 'Cause we usually are planning these projects in the fall. Most of them are out to bid for this year. But we're doing it every 6 to 8 months, really. So we're planning the next program, starting not too far from now. So it's just one of those things where we can fit in a ramp or a sidewalk, especially if there's something going on that we know about, or somebody has a concern, or to access something that's new or that we didn't know about in the community. So we've got the money to try to use that to make that happen. So that's why we want to make sure we're talking to all the interested parties. So you guys are definitely in the community and talk to people and know where we might have some troubles. So we're ears are open, and Michelle can give us notes and things if we need them. So.
Yeah. We just want to try and get engineering here a couple times a year, so that at least once or twice, so that you guys have opportunity to have that input. If there's some place that you want to guide, try and get more input in that direction of which is priority. I mean, they've done a pretty detailed analysis, or a very detailed analysis of that. I've seen their spreadsheets. It's very detailed and trying to prioritize, but the purpose of this group and the formation of it was to give input. So we were trying to connect you with the best place to give that input, if that makes any sense. So, and I will say that Dan has been very good. When we had a previous commissioner on, for those of you who are new, who had some input, and he met with her, and then we presented back I think that's what prompted the last time we presented, was input from Commissioner Finger, who recently retired, and worked on a plan to get some places she had concerns addressed.
Yeah, her neighborhood was around. We did a sidewalk on Roach around Salina Central there, so that was seems like a good improvement for that area.
That is a big improvement.
Yeah, it seems like it's
area.
a-
That's a
Nice.
beautiful
like it's nice
sidewalk.
to walk over there now.
Yeah.
So
Out of South needs one too.
Yeah, which parts of South there? 'Cause we're-
Well, it's going across to the west.
okay,
There's just no sidewalk once you get past Belmont intersection there.
Okay.
Yeah.
very good.
That's a big project, I know.
Yeah, part of our Magnolia Trail, at least on Magnolia on the south side there, we'll have a 10-foot hike and bike trail in front of South over to Jerry Ivy, and then it'll go all the way to the mall, because there's nothing
Yes,
west of there. Right.
exactly.
So we are going to address at least that'll get addressed soon. We're still working with the railroad on the crossing, but otherwise that one's going to be ready in, we hope, about a year or so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. Next items on the agenda are liaison reports. With regard to the website, Commissioner Kirkhart.
Yeah, I've been looking at it, and something that prompted me to go back on it just the other day, I was talking, somebody here, I went to, I don't know if I could say, I was in Concordia Monday night watching the nephew come and play basketball. Wow, and trying to get into school has actually two accessibility. It's kind of a loading dock to get into the school, and the accessibility in the gym, they had like just one seat on right there by the gym in the corner. And I said, and I was with my nephew also too, and I was watching his boy play ball. And I said, can I get up top there? He says, well, yeah, you got to go out and go way around to that door there. And, but there was that's technically the only two entrances, and there was no parking. The handicap parking was, you could park in the loading zone, but there was a truck there, but they had a handicap sign there, but the loading zone. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna go back on this here and see if there's something if something like I saw this in Salina, if I was an individual, would I be able to complain about that or something, or go on that? And it made it easy to go into, on just finding, if I had a complaint about a place to get into or something that's going on. It was horrible. And I talked to three people up there, and they said they tried to pass a bond up there and it failed. And I said, I was in an electric wheelchair. You get somebody in a walker that has to do this and think, well, maybe I could take some of these steps or something. I said, it's going to take a person there, and that school's going to be own that person more than what the school would have cost then. That. So I came back on this here. Then I was looking, okay, I'm going to complain about someone working in a job and stuff. Obviously, on, where am I at here? If the city of, if there was a grievance, the grievance for the city of Salina policy, they go to the ADA coordinator. And then if it's obviously, if there's grievance about any other place other than the city, if somebody is an employer of the city, then they would go to the HR on that. But it was pretty, I put in ADA, I put in disability on the city of Salina deal to find it, to make it easy. And I thought, really, technically, if someone got frustrated, I think, they would go to those would be the first two words they could put into the discovery part, and it could get to you to find all the different things that they want to do. Make a complaint somewhere here about the city, ADA, or my job somewhere in city. If I'm having a discrimination against it there, they could find that on there. So it took kind of a first-hand experience for me out of town.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm gonna there, and like I said, we was talking, the schools have all been great, because I've been in a lot of the schools, of course, they all been rebuilt and stuff, and haven't really seen anything as far as any stores or anything too. And, about the engineer, talking about it, my eyes have been open when talking about here, just being on the committee. When I'm driving around town, I'm gonna say, checking out the possibilities if someone was to get there, or is there a bad ramp or something? One up there, one of the bad ramps, thank goodness the snow was already gone, but if it was snow and someone stepped down it, it was like a pothole in the street, but it was on the ramp. I went, wow, these guys could be in trouble if they there. So that opened my eyes. I said, I'm going to go do some searching again on here and see if we saw something like that, or somebody asked me, said it's about something like this. Is there somewhere we could put a complaint or a concern or something to it? And I feel like our website's pretty easy. And I'm not very computer compatible and stuff. I've got to use my son's, Tyler, how do you do this on a computer or on a phone and stuff? But it's easy to work on the computer to find this stuff, so.
Good, because that's, I mean, it's kind of a never-ending thing with the potholes and the ramps and deterioration. As soon as you get it done, it's always, so what we want, our goal was to make it easy.
Yeah.
So that we can be proactive when someone has an issue.
Sure.
That was our goal.
And
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so like say it took something like out of town, but I thought, does Salina have a concern like this as far as if someone had a complaint that, like, could they find this on the website? Could, City of Salina, you Google City of Salina, I think I Googled and I'm not sure, I Googled City of Salina disability or
Oh,
something
good.
like that, and that kind of popped it up on that there and find that, so,
Pretty directly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. So, yeah, it's a work in progress. We still have some little tweaks, but I think it's coming along.
Yeah,
So, good to hear.
yep.
On the next item is social networking, social media posts from Chairman Rickman.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't met to talk about this anymore or develop any posts. Things have been crazy, and I'm sure you guys know that. I do frequently go onto the City of Salina's Facebook and stuff like that to keep updated with what's being posted. But as you guys can imagine, a lot of the posts recently have been about weather and snow removal and other things, and other things just take priority. And so I don't think I've seen like any fair housing or any posts recently, but that could just be my feed.
Okay.
Social media is a crazy monster.
Yes. Well, we appreciate the update and you checking.
Yeah.
Okay. Training.
I will take that right now.
Okay.
We are still looking for a training liaison or person that wants to help. The goal, we initially were talking about doing training when we first set these committees up, and we're talking about goals last year to be like creating brochures and that kind of thing, but it kind of morphed into we'd like to goal for this particular committee, and goal associated with putting on an event like we do for the Fair Housing Seminar in October of 2024 is our first target date. And we're still looking for a liaison or someone to kind of help that. It would be staff supported. You wouldn't just be like, here's your project. It would be something that we would help, but we could use the help with getting that going. We've conversed with some ideas. I have gotten a few quotes from some different consultants that might be good to do training, to kind of see, well, what do you charge for a couple hours of training? And, would that be live or Zoom? Because these were out of town consultants. But we haven't made a ton of progress yet. We're still kind of looking for a person to kind of help head that. And we're
Michelle-
looking at a half day, so there wouldn't be a meal and some of the other expenses for that first year. For our Fair Housing Seminar has been going on a long time. We get some HUD funds to help with it, but this would be a smaller scale of that without the budget of a meal and a full day affair.
And who would be the target audience for that?
What we were talking about, and I think the ideas had been, and of course we're open to discussion, but is like helping educate businesses and contractors how to make places more accessible and things they can do. The idea would be maybe a session specifically for building and developers, because there are things that are minimums, and there are things that just with a little bit of tweaking, you could make it so much better for someone that in the upfront wouldn't be a huge cost, right? Like placements of different things and, how that might affect someone long term or someone later buying a home. And then another session that we had talked about was for businesses. What are some things you can do with maybe layouts of your stores, or how you could be a little more accessible to other individuals, and thinking beyond. For me, it's thinking beyond. I think we all think about physical and people who are accessing your services by motor, the motor aspect of it, but I think there's a lot more to the website, accessibility to people with other types of disabilities. And so trying to open up minds and educate the public in that way.
Okay.
But again, we're pretty open. It'll be the first time. It's the ground floor. So if anyone is interested in kind of helping with that liaison and getting it set up, some of the ideas we talked about is maybe seeing if the chamber's willing to maybe partner, or OCCK or some other entity in town that kind of wants to partner to help bring people forward and see if we can get a crowd. And it's always hard to, time is the biggest thing. Even if we get support, sometimes it's getting people there. We work really hard, and I would love it if our housing seminar would have more people attend, but if we could just start at least somewhere to getting that word out.
Would you like me to volunteer?
Oh, I would love it.
I mean, it kind of goes along with
what you guys do.
with what I do, and then my connection with OCCK, and then my personal connections as well.
Yeah,
so.
we would love it if you would
Okay.
volunteer.
Sure.
Chair. Commissioner Coates then is volunteering to help with that. And just set up a time with me. I know we have some time set up later if we want to just also double whammy that meeting.
Yes.
We have a meeting set up with her professional career, not as a commissioner, with her professional. We have a meeting set up, so we can tie that together. That'd be great.
The next topic is a transition plan. That is me, but I'm going to defer to Michelle on this one.
Yes, and I'm happy to report we're making progress. It's a little slower than I want, but what we have done is we took the last formal plan that I could find that the city had done, and have been working to update that and see where are we on all the lists. It was a huge list of projects, and so working really hard with Parks and Engineering primarily, General Services too, but and then our department, so Development Services. We've had several meetings. We have gone out to see all the sites. We have everything from the time it was last published, which I think was 2010, and done. There was a whole list, and a lot of people have left, and there wasn't always where were we on those. So it took a lot of research to see, okay, yes, we knew some things were done, but then also things had changed. Some places what we were supposed to fix aren't even existing anymore. So updating all of that. We now have that all updated, and we are working on, as a city with Parks and Rec and the city manager, okay, when are these going to be done? Give dates. So by next week, I think it's next week, sometime this month, I can't remember the exact date, we have a meeting set for the deadline for those dates.
Wonderful.
So I feel like we've made a huge step in that direction. Then the other thing we've been conversing on since I've become a coordinator and official and been going to some of the conferences, working on trying to find someone to maybe send out some RFPs to redo our transition plan and have a professional come in and give us an update. Because it's even since 2010 when it was last professionally done, things have just changed so much in the ADA world and accessibility, especially with websites and other services. But that is something that's on the table for discussion. And it is a very open discussion. How long, I can't report yet, but then the idea will be, if we do that and we proceed with that, this group will be pivotal in giving input when we have those consultants come in and do a professional plan.
And would they make it something that could be more ongoing reviewed other than 13 years?
Yes, they could. I think the problem with that was when ADA was adopted, it didn't give beyond the first two. It said, you must have it done by this date, you must do this by this date, and then it stopped. And so it has been, and we aren't the only city, I've looked at a lot that just don't always have a professional investment done in that, the whole big thing, So yes, that would be the hope, that it would be something that's more ongoing and more regular. But I noticed that we weren't the only one. And it's still trying to be proactive. Our goal is to be proactive, not wait for a complaint or take a complaint before it goes actually into a filing or goes to litigation, that we are reacting to what people are doing. Yes, the more we can be proactive and ahead of the game, we'd like to. So I can't promise because, I don't know that I'll have that ability to promise it will always be, but our goal is to set it up so that it's more ongoing. There's better documentation. So if something happened to those of us in this department, and the historical knowledge would continue on.
Sure.
Because I think that's the biggest thing when we got that. We had lost a lot of that historical knowledge. So where are we? So we basically started from scratch on a lot of those projects and had to go out to each individual place and see it and see, okay, did this get done? Is it still needed? Is it still as it was? And try and interpret sometimes maybe why they put some things in that plan that they checked off, because it wasn't always obvious to us. But I feel like we have made huge progress this last year in getting it to where we are, and hopefully we'll have dates and plans. And I know that the city manager is very behind, let's get it done. Let's get this done. So I feel confident. But my idea would be for this group then, what the transition plan input would be is whether we hire it out or we do it, that you start having input on like where we go from here. Because I think the first thing was to take care and finish up that business before we do anything for future. So where do we go from here will be, hopefully by next time we meet, I'll be able to have a little more of that direction. Like, okay, we're looking at next year or next quarter that this is when we'll start doing that. That's my hope.
Sounds good. That's a
Okay.
lot.
It's slower than I want, but
Yeah, no, that's good. And then the last item on the liaison reports is the resource list. Marissa and I had worked on that. We really felt it was pretty complete. I suspect it wouldn't hurt for us to just each individually just go down the list and see if we know of anybody who is out of business or has made a big change. But I don't know that we need to be calling everybody again. At this point in time, I think, probably every other year at the most to do that. And that is available on the website, the city website. So I think for right now, the resource list is check mark done. Yeah.
We did get been working on another hat we wear with some of the other committees we sit on, another entity in town. It was Central Kansas Mental Health Center, wasn't it, Marissa? They gave us their resource list. So we're kind of adding each other to each other's list as it updates, because updates are always a challenge to keep up with that. So we exchanged lists, and they noted to add us when they do their updates to let us know.
Good.
So that should help as we move forward and update that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Board and Commission Annual Report.
Yes, this is where we have drafted one. You'll notice as part of your board packet, we kind of took what was last year and did this, but this is really your direction. This is staff's proposal, but this is where we ask for your input at this time to kind of help us guide. And if you have any other accomplishments and goals, the attendance, is what it is. I can't change that. But the accomplishments and goals are really up for discussion from this body on what you would like to have in there. We've made again, we kind of look back historically and we make some proposals so that we have a place to start. But nothing is set. You have full reign to change, amend, add, and do what you like. I would note that most people don't do beyond 4 or 5, 3, 4, or 5, like 3's minimum, 4, 5's max for each of the accomplishments and goals. I don't know, would the body like me, since we have 2 people that are not online, I'm happy to read those out loud if someone would like that. Would that help you guys? And just kind of go over the accomplishments?
This is Commissioner Rickman. I have them pulled up now.
Okay.
And I like what you have put on here. I mean, I feel like those are the things that we accomplished last year. And I mean, those are exactly the goals that we've just talked about, what we want to work on for 24.
I agree.
Okay. Do we want to make any amendment to the, instead of annually review and update the accessibility resource list, maybe biannually review?
What do you think, Marissa? I think biannually would work. To do a formal review more biannually, and maybe just informally more frequently.
As you see
Yeah.
it, yeah.
So I would propose then amending goal number 4 to formally review biannually the accessibility resource list.
Does that need to be a movement motion to do that, or?
We could to be formal. I mean, it's always a, I
Okay.
mean, I don't know that if anyone wants to formally move that.
Also move it.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the annual report and our goals for a biannual review of the accessibility resource list. And all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And that has been passed.
Okay. Are there any other changes? If not, thank you.
Okay.
You.
And thank Lily because she worked hard on helping me get that together.
That looks good.
Yeah.
Under unfinished business is a reminder about the Fair Housing Seminar. You guys, I've been to that the past 2 years. It really is a very interesting event. It's interesting to see and see the people who are there and hear the speakers. So I would encourage anybody who has time to go to any or part or all of it to stop by because it's good.
Well, thank you. And if anyone is interested in helping with a booth, I mean, we will be there, but you are free to come. Just reach out to us and let us know at least. Lily, when was our deadline for? I was looking April 12th. So if we could know by April 12th if you're attending or not, that would be most helpful. That's the deadline for enrollees, and that way we're planning meals and everything, and just trying to get planned by April 12th. And I can't remember when this group meets again. If that's before or after our next meeting. May. So this will happen before our next meeting. So if you want to just make sure you reach out and let us know, we'd love to have you attend.
Okay, and next is an opportunity for a public forum.
Yeah, I guess I should say something.
Okay.
Richard Aberhumford II, 315 South Ohio. As I am focused, so a lot of my energy prior to COVID was with the homelessness, but I've converted that over to senior care and advocacy. So I'm really stoked to work with you guys moving forward. Just quick little thoughts for the, I guess mimicry is a real big one. I just came from Reno doing a death doula experience out there, amazing. But they have a senior fest out there. That would be something I could look into. I was on the senior advisory board with them, and accessibility with that is huge. But I just need to know after this meeting who I could be in direct contact with, because this is one of the boards I would really appreciate to be in the resume list moving forward.
I can answer that. The city clerk, at all times, you can go on our website or go visit with the city clerk. They take all the applications to the clerk's office for any board
Right.
and commission, and you can just write that. Someone help me, what's the?
No commitments, sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off, no commitments, but it would just be someone that I could be in direct contact as far as emails or whatnot, because I feel towards the end of the summer, not a walkthrough, but a tour around the city would be very, very welcoming, because there's been a couple plans as I don't have my thoughts together, imagine that, but I do have the contacts that we could figure out and we can move from there, but just wanted to let you know that we'll be moving forward. Go ahead, ma'am.
Would that be something like Commissioner Kirkland was talking about on the website to request that type of information? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Request what kind of information?
Well, about Well, since I
So, that's-
worked on the resource list, the one thing I can say on the website is the resource list.
Right.
There are resources for seniors listed on there that can be a resource for that.
Okay.
There also is a senior fair here every year.
Right,
And the
right.
senior center.
Right, and the senior
And
center.
senior center.
Correct, yes. But it's always just about, taking other people's and take the best, leave the rest. So I really enjoyed it out there. Also, again, I don't have my thoughts laid out, but I feel like this was a good time since you guys only meet quarterly, just to acknowledge the fact that my presence is here and I will be working with you guys eventually at some point.
And we would welcome you to come back.
Yeah, thank you so
Okay.
much.
And any applications and stuff, the city clerk is the one that takes those. You can do it online or go to their office. They're right upstairs.
Right. Okay. Besides that, thank you for all you do and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda would be adjournment with a reminder that our next meeting is May 2nd at 3, then August 1st at 3, and November 7th at 3. So if I can have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and we are adjourned.
Anybody?